just like a friend from back home.
This is your Filipino radio experience in Las Vegas. PHLV Radio.
PHLV Radio.
Are you ready to travel? We got all the travel buzz here on Smart People, Travelwise with Alvin Adriano on PHLV Radio.
Greetings, hello, and mabuhay to all of our viewers and supporters. I love getting back to the show and just having great conversations. Last week, we spoke to Cameron, a travel influencer. He's a modern age travel influencer who's changing the way we look at travel. And if you want to learn more about how a travel influencer's life is, I encourage you to check back that interview. I mean, it's really straight fire. Now, we have a great show for you today, and I'm always so grateful when I can bring great people on. But not only just great people, great industry friends, people who've been part of my own journey. This industry is full of the best and kindest people, and it's more like a family than anything else. But before I get teary-eyed, let me remind you, all of our viewers, if you are just tuning in, if you're watching this live, please hashtag live. And if you're watching this on the replay, hashtag replay. We want to make sure that you acknowledge all of our viewers, especially wherever you're watching from. And you can also catch our show on Facebook and YouTube, or you can also listen to the show on Amazon Fire, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. Or even better, download the app on PHLV Radio, and it's available on all iOS and Android devices. Now, we've had some great interviews, and we continue to bring on the best perspectives and stories to our show. It's very enriching to learn what travel looks like from different people, not only to understand, but also to connect us with knowledge, experiences, and then, of course, thoughtfulness. So on today's show, we'll be speaking to one of my dear friends, Julia Swenda. She's an adventure seeker and has a goal of reaching 100 countries in her lifetime. Her travel obsession began at age 14 when she toured Europe playing the violin in an orchestra. Now in college, she was able to experience a semester at sea and has not stopped traveling since. After visiting more than 50 countries, she has had to get into the travel business. Originally from the suburbs of Philadelphia, she's also lived in LA and Paris, and previously worked as a travel agent with Flight Center for more than 3 years before joining Gogo Vacations in 2012. So today, she is the brand ambassador for Gogo Vacations. Please smash those heart buttons for Miss Julia Swenda. How are you, Julia?
Great. Thank you so much for having me on, Alvin. It's so fun. And like you said, it's just fun to just chat with friends and just talk about travel.
Yeah, it's awesome. I mean, we all have passions in our life, and these are the things that bring us together. And even more so now, during this pandemic, we really see the importance and the value of traveling.
Absolutely. And my passion is travel. And so, of course, I had to make it my career. And I'm sure a lot of us in this industry have done the same.
Yeah. But, we all have a story. We all have, I read your bio, but could you tell us a little bit more about yourself, about how you got into the business and what you love about travel?
Absolutely. So my background is television. I planned a $400 million business for a small company called QVC. So I've worked with celebrities ever since I was probably at the age of 18. I moved out to LA, of course, to work as a personal assistant, but I was not feeling fulfilled in all of that. I really wanted to see the world and get paid to do so. Mm-hmm. So I became a travel agent. We were called travel agents at that time. And I managed a store in downtown Los Angeles, and I loved it. I loved getting people excited about going to new places and going to see things that they never thought that they would see. And I think my passion just reached through to them and got them excited. So, so I became a travel agent, but after 5 years in LA, I just thought, I need to see a new place in the world. Mm-hmm. So I decided to move to Paris because, why not? And I lived in Paris and got to explore a little bit around there. And then I came home and I said, okay, great. So I lived in Paris. Now what do I do with my life? Mm-hmm. And my current position kind of just fell into my lap. And I've been with them for about 11 years. And I love being a brand ambassador, not only working with the clients, the travel advisor community, but just also the partners. And I think just being on their side of the desk, I can relate to them as well. So that's a little bit about me.
No, that's awesome. I mean, you're a travel baby like myself. Born, raised, grew up,
100%.
career, everything all about travel. And it's funny, travel has a way of connecting us, but it also allows us to give us direction because, like you never imagined moving from one place to another, but all of these are part of your timeline. And it's funny how all of these steps in your life really play an influence in who you become. The more places that you travel, you said 50. What's the exact count now?
I'm about 70 right now. And 5 have only been with work because work takes me mostly to Mexico and Caribbean, which I love, absolutely. But there's a huge world out there. And my last continent is Antarctica. So I'm really looking forward. I want to book a cruise there. And then there's a ton of countries that I still want to go to. So what's your official count?
Mine? I don't know. I know I'm at the 50 mark. I don't know. I stopped counting after the pandemic. I was just waiting, trying to figure out what were the least amount of quarantine days. But yeah, I don't know. I know I was at 52 at one point. So I'll have to go check my roster and see. But I'm slowly catching up with you. I'm not as fortunate as you. I definitely haven't lived in Paris. I've lived in Philippines, but definitely Paris is on my list. I would love to go live in out there. So for you, like what destination would you want to go to? I mean, we talked about, everyone had a time to reflect and kind of figure out what would be a meaningful trip to them. Antarctica is on your list, but you also mentioned what other countries?
So I have a goal because I have to reach that 100 goal mark at least. There's over 200 countries in the world, but I want to at least say that I've been to 100 of them. I tried pre-pandemic, I tried to add 2 to 3 countries to my passport every year, which I was doing. I was doing such a good job. And then, of course, the pandemic happened, but it's okay. Now that slowly some of the countries that I have not been to are opening up, I would love to get to. I know that Antarctica is open. Mm-hmm. So I do want to get that onto. I would love to go to Nepal. One of my dreams is to see Mount Everest. I just want to see it. I don't think I could ever summit just because of not only the price and the time commitment, but then also I have not trained. So but I would love to do that at some point. So at least go to the base camp. It's only at 17 or 18,000 feet up. But I'd love to go to New Zealand, Nepal, Antarctica as my top 3. And then I don't know. I've always wanted to go to Cambodia and Thailand. So many beautiful countries I have not seen. So yeah.
And that's so amazing. I mean, again, the type of experiences you're talking about are definitely bucket lists, planned out trips. And I just love how well you said, like, you try to visit 2 or 3 different countries each year, which allows you so much understanding of the world. So as a world traveler, like, how could you provide insight to some of our viewers how important it is to travel, or what have you learned over your travels?
So anybody who travels know that travel really opens up your mind. It opens up your world. It opens up just all of your views of everything. Of course, we think that we have it the best in the United States. And absolutely, there are so many incredible things about this country. But you don't realize how much we have available to us until you go and you see how other people live around the world. If they say if you have a house to live in, a car to drive, and just even a little bit of money in the bank, you're in the top 2% of the world. And you go and you see that. But, when I go to Africa and when I go to parts of Asia and when I go to parts of South America, you're visiting people who really do not have as much material as us. But what they have is they have community. They're happy. They have food. They have everything that they really need. And that community factor is massive, which I think, in parts of the United States, I think is lost,
Yeah.
But what I love about travel, it truly opens your mind and makes you appreciate what you have and makes you realize more of what you want in life. So I would think those are some of the biggest takeaways.
Oh, that's beautiful. I think you hit it right on the nail. I mean, it's so immersive what you feel, and it's so what do you call it? Oh my gosh. Well, enlightening about what you learn when you're out, because you don't realize the world that you live in, because this is your environment. But when you step outside and realize what other people have to go through, I mean, our definition of livelihood or lifestyles is completely different to other people. And when you see what people go through, you have a lot more appreciation of what you have. Yeah, and it's not only that, just understanding different perspectives of the way people do things. You know, you'll be surprised at the way people eat, you know, their customs and their mannerisms. But there's a cultural or a traditional way and reason why they do a certain thing, and it's really, really eye-opening to be part of that. Yeah, I mean, we can always talk about like the emotional connection that we have with the destinations and the people, but you've also met a lot of people on the way that also has made influences in your life. Was there a person that maybe influenced you that in your life that made you want to travel more, or just gave you got that outlook to travel, or was it always just a personal thing?
So my first time on a plane, of course, growing up, we always went to Disney World and we always went and did things around, but I was 10 years old, I think the first time I was on a plane that I can remember. And we went down to the Bahamas, and that was the first time I, snorkeled and was on these beautiful beaches. And I think that's probably where I got my first taste. And then, of course, I am a violinist and I toured Europe playing when I was 14.
Mm-hmm.
That was my first time on a trip without my parents, which was kind of cool. But we went to so many different countries. And I remember I stayed with a host family in Holland.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I saw down beds and down comforters and down pillows. I know that's something so silly, but as soon as I came home, I was like, I need down pillows and down comforters and down pillows. So I just these things. And I remember that was the first time where I had a taste of wine and beer at 14. I know that that's, so taboo in the United States, but in Europe, everybody is, you can start drinking very early, and they're open to it. So Europe was probably my first time where I got that. And my parents really, really supported. They said, you may never have the opportunity to travel. We want to send you where you want to go. So whenever I would have spring breaks or anything, they would send me on school trips with, of course, other students and chaperones. But I got to go to Italy and England and all these other different places. And then I did something called Semester at Sea, which was made popular via road rules. But it really was, you would pay, you have to pay money to go on it. It was a semester abroad. And we would go and we take classes during sailings. And then when we would dock, we would go in and explore the countries. And it was just, some people just wanted to go shopping and they wanted to go eat and drink, but I really wanted to go and experience the culture and experience the people and experience the history that each country had to offer. So I think just that wanderlust was always within me, but it was brought out when my parents allowed me and provided me to travel. And then, of course, just made my career my passion, made my passion my career, I should say.
Well, that's awesome. I love that. I mean, you definitely, travel does take a support group. I mean, it's not as easy as people think because, it's always nice to travel with people. But as you're younger, instilling that curiosity in your children is very, very, very important.
And I want to tell anybody, because people are always saying, I don't want to go because I don't have the money, or I don't want to go because I don't have the time. I have been to a majority of the countries by myself, because if you wait for anybody to travel, you may never, ever have that opportunity again. And also the people that you meet along the way are part of that journey. And that's a part of your growth as a human, as an individual. And it is you will feel so strong. Once you do it once, you will never want to do it another way. So if you don't have somebody to go with, I just encourage you, please just try going somewhere. Try going to, I would say, an easy country. Go to a country that you speak the same language or you feel comfortable going to. Because I know I've toured the Galapagos, I've hiked Machu Picchu, I've been to the Maldives by myself. I've been everywhere. I could keep going over all the countries, but I just encourage you, please try to do it alone, because that is part of your journey, and it will enlighten you and just expand you as a person.
I love that. I love that. So many intangible things that you receive once you travel. You can't explain it. It's a confidence. It's an emotional feeling. It's an enrichment, inspirational. There's just things, and you can't say it, smell it, hear it, touch it, but you know it because you have memories about it, and you just know what it feels like to be a citizen of the world. So I love everything that you're speaking about. And I think it's really important, you were supported by your parents, and now you work for a tour operator or people who support other people's dreams to getting them into beautiful destinations. And you mentioned it before that majority is in Mexico and Caribbean, but what have you learned during the pandemic, as in your company, about how important travel is, or how important your position in travel is to make it accessible to people?
So I learned that, everything was super scary in the beginning. Nobody knew what was going on. But as things started to unfold a little bit, people were like, I don't care, just get me out. I want to get out of my house. I just want to get out of here. So during the pandemic, we found that people really did want to leave and travel. And they just said, okay, who doesn't have restrictions? Who has this? So if you're concerned with, is it safe? Is it healthy to go? You would go to those countries that have all those regulations in place, where they needed the testing or they needed the strict regulations in order to get in. And if people didn't really care about what was going on, or if they just wanted an easy trip, they would go to those countries that had less restrictions. So you had a little bit about everything, and you could always just point people in the direction of, okay, what are you concerned with? What type of trip are you looking for? This is what we can help you provide, and this is what I would recommend.
Awesome. Yeah, I think curiosity is one of the human characteristics that will never die down. We always want to explore, and being, when we say that we're unable to travel, it just, people's minds just went crazy. Like, oh my gosh, where do I need to go? I can't imagine what the Google search bars were looking like, places to go for 2022. That would probably be like really good information to probably get as a travel advisor. So I'll have to note that down. But thinking about it, people were thinking about purpose now, thinking about why they should go to the destination. Why, what can I get from this place? Culture, what kind of value can I get? So I'm so interested when I hear when people are like, where do you want to go next? And these are some like off the wall places, like, wow, I've never thought that you would go to these places, but these are bucket list places that people have never thought about. And so being able to provide that, I know Mexico and Caribbean continue to stay open, or trying many different ways to stay open. And they were really the heartbeat of the tourism industry during that pandemic, because I don't know how North American tourism would have continued on if we didn't have somewhere like Mexico and Caribbean really opening their doors. It was a blessing in disguise for all of them.
100%. And look at the national parks. You still had tourism to the national parks pre-COVID, but during COVID and everything, people were just looking to drive. They were scared to fly. They were scared to go on any type of public transportation. So if you had access to a car, great, you could just drive around. And that's the beauty of our country too. You can see so many incredible things within. But thank goodness for Mexico, thank goodness for the Caribbean, and thank goodness for the Maldives. Oh my goodness. Maldives too, yeah. The Maldives were open. I know Tahiti was open, that we had countries that were open and then closed and everything. But I always say, thank goodness for Mexico and the Caribbean. Without them, our industry, I don't know where our industry would be.
Yeah, so kudos. Now, we're talking about how everyone pivoted, how everyone kind of stayed resilient. Was there any innovations or any practices that your company did, or that you thought was very, very beneficial to the future of travel?
So, of course, with the pandemic, every company was just like, oh no. We work in a luxury market. It's something you need a little bit of disposable income for. So, and when countries are closed, how do you conduct business? So in order to make things easier or possible, I know that we were trying to be as fast as possible with any sort of cancellations and refunds. I know that we put up a website that gives you all the rules and regulations that not only travel advisors could reference, but also the public. You could send it to your clients, since we do not transact with the public. But this will give you all one-stop information for everything that's going on. I know we work in such a fluid environment and things are constantly changing. So we tried to condense it into that one spot that you could go to for the information. I also know that we worked with the hotel partners and the DMCs and all the different suppliers within those destinations that were open. So what happens? Are you going to provide COVID testing? Are you on site? Are you going to provide free COVID stays if anybody were to test positive? So we really tried to work out those. But also, I know that we were having conversations previously. It's nice to see that airlines are actually cleaning their planes, and they want to. I'm like, this is great. But I just think that hopefully we're in a cleaner world because of this, and that we're going to be more prepared if anything like this were to ever happen, and that hopefully we can prevent this from happening in the future.
Oh yeah, it was awesome, and I think you said some great points, especially with all the open communication and collaboration with all the businesses working together, because that's what it came down to: effective communication when it came to like constantly flip-flopping travel restrictions. I don't know if I need this test or that test, and everyone just like frantic. But I think it was really important, all the airlines, hotels, tour operators combining in a joint effort to really trying to communicate to our passengers, and even just the patience of the traveler, these days, just kind of like, okay, I'm just going to go with the flow. We want to go. I just don't know how we're going to get through it. Just being able to be patient throughout the process. It played a really big part in how important travel is to everybody, that we were willing to just go through the waterworks and just, hey, we're going to manage. I mean, some people like, I don't know, I'm leaving next week. I could be, but if I do, it'll be an amazing experience. If I don't, next week, I guess.
Took it for granted.
Yeah.
We took it for granted that we could just pick up and go wherever we wanted to go pre-pandemic.
Yep.
And now we're like, we have to get this or this and this. And oh, wait, is that open? Like now we have to think so much more, and we're not as free as we used to be, free to travel.
It goes to what you're saying with other countries who have to go through all of these formalities, getting visas. They have to go through all this process just to get on a plane to go somewhere where we just have to buy a ticket. We just have to buy a ticket and we're there. So just think about how all this has really opened up our eyes to what we really have, what we take for granted, and what are opportunities that we can really redefine how we travel in the future.
Absolutely.
So, with that said, do you see any other innovations, or would you like to see any other innovations happen going into the future of travel? I mean, you said
teleporting.
Well, we have to beat all the major airlines, so they might monopolize that too. So
hey, I'm okay. I'll get on the business class teleportation, no problem. Here's your glass of champagne. Finish it in the next 5 seconds.
Oh my gosh, that'd be like the Jetsons.
Just the innovations. I really hope that they do continue with the cleanliness programs. I know you were saying handing out the hand sanitizers or the wipes, and because I know that I used to travel with that just in general, and now they're providing them. Great, it's an expense off of me, but just cleaning, just keep things clean. To do all of that, in all honesty, I don't know what's going on for the future. So I feel like we have so many hoteliers and airlines, and we have so many practices in place. So I don't know what else we can do in the future. And that's where innovation is going to come. So if there is ever a need, innovation does happen, I think.
Awesome. And lastly, any tips or advice that you can share with those who may be hesitant to travel right now, who are like, hey, you know what? I see people travel. I don't know if I want to believe it all yet, but I mean, we're both travelers. Any words of advice for them?
So my first flight during the pandemic was in July 2020. That's when I know a lot of people were very scared to fly everything. And I will be honest, I was nervous to fly. And I fly a minimum of about 150,000 miles a year, and that's pre-COVID. So for me to say that I was nervous to fly was kind of a weird thing. But I got on the plane, I had my mask on, I was, wiped everything down. And you know what? It was not as bad as I expected. Mm-hmm. I think it's just doing it will make you realize that there are practices in place, and it's not as scary as they make it out to be. But I would say go. If you have any desire to go anywhere, either hop on hop on your car, hop on a plane, just go somewhere, hop on a ship, go somewhere, because it'll change your mind. Once I got down to my destination, I felt like I was in a different world. I was able to socially distance at a resort. Very few people were down there. I felt like I was just in a different world, and it was really good for, mental health. It's really good for yourself. You need to take care of yourself, and especially in times like this. So go. That's all I have to say is just go.
Oh, thank you so much for dropping so much knowledge and sharing your insights. I really appreciate you spending your time with us, Julia, because it's, having friends on here and just sharing our love and passion for travel means so much to me. So thank you again for being here.
Well, thank you for having me, Alvin. I really appreciate it. And it's always great to see you.
Awesome. Well, we'll have to catch up once more, especially once all the restrictions, maybe we'll be in Cambodia. Who knows?
I would love it.
Thank you. Take care.
Thank you so much, Alvin. Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye, everyone.
Awesome. So people like Julia are awesome. They're people who live in the industry, who were born in the industry, and continuously to push travel to everybody they meet. They understand the inspiration, the influence, the motivation, but also how it changes and transforms people. People like Julia are my favorite type of people because they continuously help people transform and evolve to the best versions of themselves. Although we all have comfortability issues when it comes to traveling, we all know that there will be early adopters and people who will lead the way to make sure it's safe for us. And people like Julia are those people. I thank her for her time and her support of the travel industry and being able to be there to give people inspiration. We always like to bring wonderful people, the best people in travel, to give you their insights and perspectives, not only to share their stories, but to give you a little idea of their life and journeys. But thank you again for watching our show. We appreciate all of our supporters. This could not be possible without your support. Our Smart People Travelwise airs every Tuesday, at 3 p.m. East Coast time or 12 p.m. Pacific time. So again, thank you again. Thank you for sharing and spreading the love. Until next time, Smart People Travelwise.
Just like a friend from back home.
This is your Filipino radio experience in Las Vegas. PHLV Radio.
PA